Good morning, everybody. I call to order the 8 o'clock August 6th meeting of the Judicial and Public Safety Committee. Can I get a roll call, please?
Chair Evans?
Here.
Member Chaplin?
Here.
Member Childress?
Yes.
Member Dessart? Member Eckhoff? Member Gustin? Member Krajewski? Member Ozog? Member Schwarzy? Member Tornatori? Member Yu? Member Zay? He's here.
He was here. Oh, there he is.
There he is. Okay.
Okay, we have a quorum. And do we have any public comment?
No public comment today.
Okay, no public comment. For chair remarks, good morning, everybody. I hope everybody had some quality time off. We have a very full agenda today, so I'm just going to get right in it. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024? Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Moving on to action items. Can I get a motion to approve JPSCO-8-24, amendment to purchase order issued to Monterey Security to increase the contract amount in the amount of $150,000 for increased security services at the DuPage County Health Department for a new contract total amount of $1,518,375, an increase of 10.96%. Is there any discussion? Oh wait, we have motion? Okay, and discussion. We have Member Eckhoff.
I just had a question as to what the additional security is needed for. Is it as a result of the construction or activity at the department?
Good morning. Yes, Member Eckhoff. That's for the new crisis center construction. When the groundbreaking took place and ongoing, the doors were reconfigured in such a way that clients have to move further through the building. So health department requests additional security, but it's all due to the reconfiguration during construction.
So it's only temporary then?
Well, it'll be temporary until the facility opens, and then they'll have we'll have to see what the health department's asking for security at that time.
Is it like 2 new people or 3 or?
That's still to be determined. We have some estimates, but I would prefer to answer that offline if I could for you, not rather than an open meeting.
Sleeve.
What's that, sir?
I'm talking to my sleeve.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Moving on to item 6B, can I get a motion to approve item 24-2094, Curry Motors PO 5670-1 serve. This purchase order is decreasing in the amount of $40,160 and closing due to expiration of the contract. Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Moving on to item 6C, can I get a motion to approve items 24-2095, Universal Protection SVC LP. This purchase order is decreasing in the amount of $42,331.84 and closing due to expiration of the contract. Any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. And moving on to item 6D, can I get a motion to approve item 24-2096, Monterey Security Consultants? This purchase order is decreasing in the amount of $66,267.41 and closing due to expiration of the contract. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving on to procurement requisitions. Can I get a motion to approve JPSP-21-24, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to National Association of State Head Injury Administrators for developing and implementing an online on-demand brain injury training designed to provide education to the DuPage VTC team for the period of July 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2025 for a total contract amount not to exceed $52,250. And this is sole source per DuPage ordinance. Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second? Okay, and we have some discussion on that. Member Yu and then Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had the quick question of, is this a new initiative that we're doing to provide education to the VTC team? Can I just get a little background on this one?
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning. Timothy McGavin from Probation. Yes, this is a new grant that we are entering with the Bureau of Justice to serve our veterans court through the National Association of State Head Injury Administrators.
Thank you. Member Krajewski?
Yeah, thank you. I had my normal question because this starts July 1st and we're in August already. I know it was because it was grant funded. And so that's fine. But the expiration is March 31st of 2025. So 9 months. But I think when I read in there that 52,000, it said there was like $7,000 for licenses, but for 3 years. So it was 3 years worth of licensing.
Yes, we would be entering into an agreement with NASHIA to have access to their what they call their OBI SSS, which is an online brain injury support and screening system. So it's a 3-year access to that ability for us to upload information into that. We would pay.
So my question is, should this be a 3-year contract and not a 9-month contract? Because we're paying, allegedly, we're going to be paying for 3 years worth of licensing.
Yes, what we would do is pay for it upfront 1 year, and then towards the end of the grant, and say March of 25, we would have to pay the final 2 years in order to secure the 3 years of that contract, because the grant does end and the funding, the money has to be spent by March 30th of 2025.
Okay, so the grant period's the 9 months, but we're buying 3 years worth.
That's
of license.
Correct.
Okay.
Hey, any other questions or comments? Thank you. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Moving on, can I get a motion to approve JPSP-22-24, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to Stock Enterprises LLC for the purchase of grappler police bumper kits and training for the Sheriff's Office for the period of August 13th, 2024 through August 12th, 2025 for a contract total not to exceed $31,000. And okay, we got a motion and a second. Member Chaplin?
Thank you very much. I just had a quick question. I was looking at the sole source letter, and it says that that there's no other manufacturers or distributors for grappler arresting device inside the state of Illinois. So I'm just curious because I know we're not limited to procuring through our county or our state. So I'm just wondering why it said the state of Illinois and if there's other manufacturers outside of the state.
Under Sheriff Moore is here to answer questions.
There you go. Good morning. I do not believe there's one at all.
Okay.
It is sole source solution. That might just be a misprint. I apologize.
Okay. No worries. Okay. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The motion carries. Moving on to item 7C, can I get a motion to approve JPSP-23-24, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to Untethered Labs, Inc. for the purchase of the Gatekeeper system for the Sheriff's Office for the period of August 13th, 2024 through August 12th, 2025 for a contract total amount not to exceed $61,980. Any discussion on that? Okay, Member you.
Thank you. So I was talking with Anthony McPherson about this one, and because it's sole source, this cost seems to be a little bit higher for a multi-factor authentication system. And I understand there's a wireless dongle involved, but I think I just wanted to get a little bit more information about, was it really necessary to get the wireless dongle in order to have an MFA system?
Under Sheriff Moore is walking all the way up here to answer more questions.
I'm going to defer this one over to Deputy Chief Bilodeau,
okay.
who was heavily involved in this.
Okay.
Way too technical for me. He's in line.
Chief Bilodeau, are you on the line?
Good morning. Yes, I am. So part of the reason for this wireless dongle is that in our correctional facility, we don't allow our employees to keep their personal cell phones with them, so they don't have a multi-factor authentication availability through that. This allows them to put a keychain dongle on their keychain, which can be in their pocket or whatever. And as they walk up to a computer, it provides that multi-factor authentication for any computer that they're accessing. Same thing in the courthouse. That way they don't have to get on their phones. Don't have to have a different method to get there.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. And moving on to resolutions, can I get a motion to approve FIR-123-24, acceptance and appropriation of the National Forensic Science Improvement Program Grant 23 from 2023 intergovernmental agreement, okay, in the amount of $75,000. Okay, any discussion on that? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve FIR-129-24, acceptance and appropriation of the U.S. Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Assistance Veterans Treatment Court Innovations Program Grant Program, PY 24, award number 2019 VCBXK 03, in the amount of $67,650. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Moving on to budget transfers, can I get a motion to approve 24-2089 budget transfers needed to realign budget to actual expenditures at grant end, which was June 30th, 2024, in the amount of $42,420. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Moving on to item 9B, can I get a motion to approve item 24-2091? Transfer funds from automotive equipment to salaries, employer share, Social Security benefit payments, IMRF, employee med, and hospital insurance in the amount of $54,983 to add a division assistant as the caseload has increased at the coroner's office. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries. Moving on to 9C, can I get a motion to approve item 24-2092, transfer of funds from contingencies to grant services domestic relations in the amount of $22,328 for an invoice for domestic relations legal charities, and that's at the Judicial Court. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. And moving on to item 9D, can I get a motion to approve 24-2093, transfer of funds from regular salaries to other professional services in the amount of $40,000 due to unanticipated usage in this line? Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Now, moving on to informational, can I get a motion to receive and place on file item 24-2097, Informational Public Defender's Office Monthly Statistical Report for June 2024. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Now we are here finally at budget presentations. We are moving on to, so first up is our DuPage County State's Attorney's Office, and Bob Berlin is here. Welcome, Mr. Berlin.
Good morning, everybody. So everyone should have gotten our budget proposal that was sent out. I know it was revised and resent, but we currently have 14 open positions in the State's Attorney's Office, including 11 attorney positions and 3 full-time support staff positions. We are asking for 19 new positions, but we have met with finance and we've agreed to put 12 of those positions in contingency as we have done in the past. And that would include 9 attorney positions in contingency as well as 3 support staff. The reason for the increase, as I've stated the past couple of years, is due to the massive increase in digital media evidence that we continue to get because of the body-worn camera evidence. And I'm a huge proponent and continue to be a huge proponent of body-worn cameras, but the reality is they've greatly increased our attorneys' workload as well as the workload of our support staff. when we're responding to FOIA requests and in discovery. Some of that has to be redacted. It's extremely time consuming. Over the past 14 years, we have stayed within our budget every single year. We've made the necessary adjustments to maintain expenditures within the budget, and we have performed at the same level, despite facing an unprecedented challenge in hiring attorneys. So our plan for 2025 is based on our actual expenses the past few years, the increased felony caseload, as well as I said, the substantial increase in digital media evidence due to the Body-Worn Camera Act, as well as the Safety Act. The good news is that with the increase that you've given us the past couple of years, being able to hire more attorneys and support staff, and concentrating on prosecuting violent crime. Our armed robberies were down 21% last year. Our aggravated vehicular hijacking cases were down 67%. Unlawful use of a weapon by a felon, down 21%. Those are all outstanding numbers. On the other side of the coin, burglaries, many of those are retail thefts, were up 50%. And we saw a huge increase in fleeing and aggravated fleeing and eluding offenders who get stopped, who take off from the police. That went from 218 in 2022 to 397 last year in 2023. The good news is the first 6 months of 2024, we've charged 130, so we're actually on track for a 34% decrease. And as all of you know, we've been very vocal in our press releases, and we seek detention on aggravated fleeing and eluding when offenders are going 100 miles an hour, posing a grave threat to the public. In terms of our felony cases, they were up 6% last year. The number of felony indictments was 2,954. But so far in 2024, for the first 6 months, if you take the 1,421 and multiply that by 2, that would equate to a 3.8% decrease from last year. DUIs were down. The number of charged cases were down 4.5% from 2022. Unfortunately, we saw a substantial increase in domestic violence cases, up 20% from 2021. We charged 1,894 domestic violence cases last year compared to 1,743 the year before. In terms of our felony caseload, the total pending cases was down 2.5% last year, actually down 9.2% from 2021, which is when it was at its high during COVID. And it's up 6.5% from 2019 during the pre-COVID years. Just a little bit on our focus court, 889 cases that are pending right now, 472 predisposition cases, and 417 post-disposition. Juvenile cases, we continue to file at a pace that is far, far less than where we were 10 or 15 years ago. Last year, we filed 371 delinquency cases. When I came to DuPage in 2004 as the deputy chief of juvenile, we filed over 1,100 cases that year. So we've seen a substantial decrease because we're doing far more outside of court in terms of diversion and restorative justice. Firearm restraining orders. So far this year, we have filed 8. We filed 22 in 2023. Statewide, as of July 22nd of this year, there have been 656 firearm restraining orders in the state of Illinois since the law went into effect in 2019. 132 of those, or 20%, are right here in DuPage County. So we continue to lead the way in firearm restraining orders by far and above over any other county in the state of Illinois. Again, 20% of the orders, despite having 7.3% of Illinois' population. Our diversion court has accepted 512 cases now since its inception. 378 have successfully completed the program. We have 57 that are pending right now. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out our child support program with fewer attorneys. Last year, we brought in over $35 million in unpaid child support. And again, we continue to do far better than all the surrounding counties. They do an outstanding job and don't get the recognition they deserve, but make an enormous difference in the community. So again, with our plan, putting a lot of the attorney increases and support staff increases into contingency, we have been able to and will continue negotiating cases based on the value of the case, based on the offender's history, the victim's wishes, and the best interest of the community. And we will not make decisions on cases or negotiate cases on our ability to hire experts or the cost of prosecuting a case. That has always been the case. I can't thank the board enough for the support you've given my office over the years, which allows us to value a case for what it's worth and make an appropriate decision on how to proceed. And we continue on doing that. Just a couple of items in our civil division. One thing I want to point out is the huge increase in mental health cases. All of you are aware of that, but just so you have some idea, last year in 2023, we filed 882 mental health cases compared to 715 in 2022. So that was a 23% increase. And so far this year, as of August 5th, we filed 619. So that's another 17.7% increase. We just continue to see it in the community, a huge increase in people experiencing mental health issues. And all the more reason for the crisis recovery center that's being built right now. With this plan, we are confident and hopeful we will be able to retain experienced attorneys, as well as this plan involves an increase so that we can pay our 7-Eleven interns. This year, we had close to 40 summer interns. We have 9 bar takers that just took the bar last week, waiting for the results, that have all committed to the office. But I can tell you the past 3 years, almost all of our new hires are coming from our summer internship program. So we've been very successful, and it has been a challenge, not just for state's attorneys' offices and public defenders' offices, but it's been a challenge, I know, for many of the private law firms trying to hire experienced attorneys and good attorneys. So we have been able to compete very well with the summer internship program. If there's any questions, I can answer those now. If not, I can move on to the Children's Center.
I think because we're going to have, okay, we have just one question, right? Because we need to move on to our public defender's presentation as well. So, Member Krajewski?
Yeah, well, thanks for your hard work you and your office do. You guys are the gold standard in the state of Illinois, and thanks to your leadership and the hard work. You mentioned twice the contingency, but in this budget, we have 1.8 million for new program requests. Is that the same as what's going to go into contingency, or there's more in contingencies for the new hires? So the 1.8 is for?
That's for an increase of 19. That's what we're asking for now. Out of that 19, 12 of those we've agreed to put in contingencies. So actually,
So this 1.8, some of that's going to move into contingencies?
yeah,
Okay.
actually the increase out of that 1.8, I think, is 533,000.
Okay, so this budget that's being presented, we're going to move about 1 point something out of this budget and move it into contingencies.
We've agreed to do that, and it's worked for us the past.
Sure, no,
years.
that's fine. I didn't know if we had more in contingencies in addition to this 1.8. Sounds like no, we don't. And then you've gone up 50% in 2 years and 100% in the last 5 years. I assume that's all due to the Safety Act.
Due to the Safety Act and the Body Worn Camera Act,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and one of the positions we're adding is a supervisor to first appearance court, because of the importance of the work that they're doing in that courtroom. Those attorneys are getting there at 6 a.m. To be prepared every day.
Thank you so much. Oh.
Just if I could just address very briefly the Children's Center. It's a very small increase this year, which is a little over 1% of what we're asking for. Almost all of the money there is in personnel. And we're actually anticipating grant funding of $491,000, which will tremendously offset the budget of the Children's Center. But our Children's Center remains the gold standard in the state of Illinois. And they accepted 317 cases last year, 281 sexual abuse and 36 physical abuse. Some of the most complicated and obviously disturbing cases that we deal with, but the staff over there is truly outstanding. So again, I just want to thank everyone here, the board, for your support that you continue to provide our office, allowing us to do our jobs and keep the county safe.
Yeah, thank you so much. And, you know, I always say that, yeah.
Thank you.
You know, our state's attorney, Robert Berlin, is like our #1 law enforcement recruiting tool, because everybody wants to work here because we prosecute. So with that, let's move on to, thank you so much. And then let's move on to one of the busiest men here, Jeff York, our public defender's office.
Hi, morning. Welcome to the show. I don't know why. There we go. All right, so let me explain how today's game is going to work. I have some pretty unusual budget requests, even for me. So this presentation is going to be unusual, even for me. Kind of explaining a lot of my budget requests, and a lot of the variance is what I call state money. Last year, after my budget was submitted, the state of Illinois gave all public defenders some money. $10 million is allocated by the state to 101 counties. Cook didn't get it. And it was divided with some complicated math formula I didn't understand. And it was administered by the AOIC. And as many of you know, I'm very popular with the AOIC this year. So this year, the state did allocate another $10 million. So with that complicated formula, we received $113,000. I have no idea what I'm going to get this year, and no public defender's office has been informed. I assume we're going to get something, but how the AOIC distributes that money is up to them. So my budget process, what I did is I did my normal budget process. And then I said, okay, if I got $100,000, what would I do with it? So the state money that is allocated by the AOIC is supposed to be used at the discretion of the public defender and not to supplant, but to supplement county budgets. So I'm kind of treating this like you did with ARPA, programs that I want to do, but I don't normally have the money or I don't want to ask you for. So that's kind of what I, this year, decided to do with it. So for each category, I'm going to show you both my initial request, what I added for state money, and then the total, which is really the number that you see on the charts. I also call these the Krajewski tables, which is with the actual spending for the last couple of years, and then both our budget anticipated and then next year's request. All right, so let's play the feud. Top 8 answers on the board. The largest line item in the public defender budget is personnel, like everybody else. So the number that is in the tables you got was 6,296,400. And is that the number you should give me? No. And here's why. I'm asking to actually give me less than that. So that's the number that's on my tables. And okay, so the budget software is really smart and it's smarter than me. We've had some attrition. So the snapshot we took in May makes this number a little inaccurate because with replacements, they cost less. In addition, the software allows us to put in future employees. So just like the state's attorney's office has 9 bar takers that they're going to have start sometime soon, I have 6. When I put their salaries in, the budget program automatically adds those. So even though I submitted what I thought I needed, including those people, so it's off. On the day the budget was due, I was kind of scrambling to make it, and it got too complicated. And so really what I think I need is 6.1. So congratulations, you just won $144,000 in today's game. So let's keep playing. What else costs $100,000? And it's interns. I want to thank again Jeff Martinowitz and Nick Kottmeyer a couple of years ago when we were having this hiring struggle and suggesting that we aggressively pay interns. And it has made a tremendous difference for us, just like the state's attorney's office. It's the group we had this summer was outstanding. The number of people we had applying that are former interns to have jobs this fall was great. So in addition, I'm only asking you really for $75,000. I'm adding $25,000 of state money to that so we can have some interns during the school year as well. So this year I anticipate I'm going to spend $88,000. 13 of it was state money that I added to the 75 that actually was budgeted. All right, so time for our next round. Behind door number 2 is new program requests. I still need to add more lawyers, just like the state's attorney's office. This would not cover, I'm asking for 4 felony positions. This wouldn't cover that, but I'm going to stagger the hiring. And again, I spoke with finance after I submitted my budget and discussed putting this in contingency, and I'm fine with that. Okay, the next category is furniture, and that is today's daily double. Because I'm doubling the amount of, or more than doubling what I want in furniture. So as I said before, I'm using state money for things that would be nice to have, but I don't have the budget for them. I don't really want to ask you for them. And so there's areas in our new space where I would like some cabinets. I would like some tables, and it wasn't part of the original build out, and I get it. But I want to add that, and I want to use some of the state money to do that. So traditionally, we don't spend a lot on furniture, but when we're adding staff and expanding an office like we have, there is a need for some things. Okay, so our next puzzle is instruction and schooling. Training is super important to our staff. It's been a focus of mine as public defender. And it's tougher as we get bigger. And the other thing is, while we're greener than we used to be, when we interview people, the number 1 question they have for us when we ask them if they have any questions is, what does your training program look like? So traditionally, I spend about $3,500 throughout the year. For the most part, we're our own CLE provider. So we provide most of the hours attorneys get. And there is some cost to that. But I want to use state money to provide opportunities to send some people to other training outside of what we do. So that's a huge increase, but most of that is state money. I have to have some stable line items, right? Operating expenses are more or less stable. I'm only asking for a slight increase in that. And most of that increase is due to things being shifted in the last couple of years to our budget from like a centralized thing. So like for paper and things like that, that got shifted to the department budgets. The $1,000 are for things that I want to buy that I wouldn't ask the county to normally pay for. So like frames for the walls. We have a lot of blank walls right now, and things like that. Okay, our next category is dues and membership. And let's bet it all higher. That's going up as well. And that's really a product of having more people. There's nothing, there is an office-wide membership I'm going to ask, and that's what I'm using the $4,000 from the state money for Public Defender Association, nationwide organization. Who wants to be a millionaire? All the digital storage companies, and they already are. Software rental is one of my biggest line items outside of personnel. The bulk of this is for rental and licensing of software. As we add staff, the number of users we add to those goes up. But a bigger and bigger amount each year is chewed up in storage of all the data we get from state and discovery. We've met a few times with IT to try to come up with a solution to kind of offload some of this so it's not all in the cloud, because there's a monthly cost to the stuff that we haven't touched now in years, but we're storing and we have to pay for it. So we're hoping to reduce that cost at some point. Another reason for the jump from last year to this year is really moving stuff from 45,000 or 50,000 from another line item into this line item. So the $50,000 jump is essentially, there was one software program we had in professional services that the auditor asked us to move to this line item. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm smarter than a fifth grader and I didn't go to Harvard, but why are we spending so much money on printing? We used to get most of our stuff printed, and that was a corporate account and was centralized. So we need business cards, especially with new staff, letterhead. We use a lot of what are called NCR forms. So we write on a form that it's like carbon. So we have a copy that for our file, but we often give it to the client or the state or both. And this year we need to get file folders. We buy folders like our case jackets every few years. And so we need to buy a whole bunch of them. We kind of try to buy them in bulk and then not buy them for a few years. So for the last couple of years, we haven't really spent a lot in that. We are going to spend most of this year's budget, and we expect we'll spend next year's budget as well. Okay, keep going, press my luck. Interpreter services. There's a huge amount of state money allocated here. We have already outspent and had to transfer money for interpreters for this year. But the increase here, and what I would want to use the state money for, is we get a lot of requests from our attorneys to transcribe videos that are not in English so they can understand what they talk to the police about or whatever. The ones that are Spanish we've been doing in-house. And we can do that, but there are times where we're just overwhelmed. We get a case with, 18 videos, that an attorney wants transcribed because it's going to trial. And it's just not realistic for my staff to keep up with that. We posted for a position to actually have someone come in and do this as a full-time employee. And we weren't thrilled with the response we got. So we took it down, that position down. And I'm going to try, there is a service where we can send it out. It's costly, but I want to try it, see what we think of it, see how accurate we think it is, and then see if that kind of meets our need. So that's what I intend on doing with the bulk of that money for this next year, assuming we get that state money. So as you can see, our budget was $500 for interpreter services. We're going to spend way more than that this year, and we can't predict how many people don't speak English of our clients. Most of the money for interpreter services here are not Spanish interpreters. The court has Spanish interpreters. We have people in-house that speak Spanish, including a number of our attorneys. It's the languages that aren't as common, where we have to hire somebody to go to the jail with us. We also have services for pretrial court where we can use our phones and get a phone interpreter and things like that. This is my member Ozog slide, but she's not here. because she likes The Simpsons, but they were on their way at a game show to try to win their way home. And so let's talk about travel. This is really a corresponding increase with training. Some of the training I want to send people is further away, and our travel, I expect, is going to be significantly higher. So that's what that difference is. So if the state money comes in, I would want to send some people outside of probably Illinois for some training. The weakest link in our budget. Slide format stops. Yeah, I know I got cut off. Okay. Is professional services. And as Mr. Berlin indicated, I also don't want to compromise a case because of the cost of an expert. Now, if you look at the numbers for the last several years, we have spent way more than 90,000. 22 was 120, 23 was 100. This year we anticipate we're going to spend 160. But of that 160, 50 of it is money that was moved from another line item for a transcription service for body cameras. So it's very hard to predict how many expert witnesses we'll need to call in a given year. This has not been a particularly good year. It's one of those things where, you know, I just moved on today's budget $40,000 for this line item. That's why our budget was 120. Now we anticipate we're going to spend 160 because I just moved 40,000 today. So we've also had a huge uptick in transcripts we've had to order. We've been appointed to a number of cases after a private attorney has had the trial for sentencing. So we have to order the entire trial and to do post-trial motions and other things. And that's very costly. So we don't have time for 20 questions, but I'll take whatever questions you have.
Okay, Member Desart.
Don't tell anybody, but your presentations are my favorite. They're so fun and entertaining. So thank you for that, Jeff. So I'm a firm believer in training and continuing education. What is the total head count of the Public Defender's Office?
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
What is the total head count of the Public Defender's Office?
I think it's 63 now.
63. And how many people annually go through training? I mean, is 13,500 enough? Do people go in continuing training like you, or is it just initial hires?
So no. We have a whole separate training program for new hires. All attorneys are required to do a certain number of continuing education per year. It's actually every 2 years. And for the most part, we provide enough hours for our attorneys for free. And we actually do some stuff in conjunction with the private bar as well.
Okay.
So for the most part, we provide those hours, but there are some things that really we aren't experts in and that I would like to send some people out for.
Sure. Okay. The printing, $18,000. You know, at 2024, we're putting everything on computers and not printing things out and having file cabinets filled with paper. Are we moving toward that in the Public Defender's Office?
We are. So for instance, in the mental health cases that Mr. Berlin talked about, we don't make files for those. Those cases often come up quickly and resolve quickly. And we tried not having files for those, just the speed of which those cases are taken care of, and it's worked fine. In the criminal context, though, I think it would be difficult to go completely paperless. We've certainly reduced the amount of paper, but if we're going to trial, we're not just using our computer. We need it printed out, especially if you want to have a witness identify a piece of evidence or discuss something, or their memory needs to be refreshed. So I don't think we'll ever go without files completely, but certainly the file cabinets are less bulky.
Okay. And finally, I really applaud you for wanting to try something new regarding the interpreters, but I'm wondering the cost difference between a full-time interpreter employee versus the service that you want to use. Thank you, Jeff.
Sure. I think a full-time employee would certainly cost more. That's why I want to kind of experiment to see if the service we think is worth the money and the effort and how good they are. We've explored a few different ones. We actually looked into it a few years ago. We didn't think it was a good idea. We found one that we actually wanted to try. And So I wanted money in the budget to be able to try it at those times when we can't do it. If we can do it ourselves, we're going to do it ourselves. But there are times where there's too many.
Member Guston, and then
Thank
member.
you. Thank you very much, Jeff, for your presentation. It was very informative. Two thoughts. One, as you talked about, obviously we have, and you're not the Lone Ranger in this, paying so much money to keep everything in the clouds. And I anticipate that those costs are going to continue to go up and up and up and up. Has anyone talked about changing the policy potentially for those very, very old cases that are past, a period of time that would be needed, or someone would call upon them, maybe to go back to like some type of USB or some type of external storage capability system versus keeping it up in the cloud? And I know everybody loves cloud. I love the cloud, but boy, it's costly. So I don't know if that's been a conversation yet.
It is. We've actually talked to our vendor and IT about that, because there's a number. So our bill every month for storage is about $4,500, maybe $5,000. $3,500 of that is stuff we haven't touched for at least 6 months. So I have talked to them about finding a way to put it somewhere else, so we aren't paying that $3,500 every month. I mean, it's a lot. And so the problem is the amount of data we're talking about. We're talking over 100 terabytes, which is 100 million books. So it isn't very economical at this point yet to be buying something with that much storage. The county doesn't have that much storage space. So we are exploring that. We're kind of in the initial part of that, but I am looking to find a way to reduce that cost for us.
Great. And then the interpreter services, I know there's online apps, or there are apps to help with translation. If you need someone to help translate in Chinese, my niece does that. She's in Wuhan right now teaching English. So, but there are apps online. I don't know if they're as accurate as you need, but has that come up in a conversation?
So there are transcription services that will do even Spanish, but our staff has found that accuracy has not been great. It's often a start, but there's quite a bit of cleanup that needs to happen with those.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, I have member Yu and then member Krajewski.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jeff, for this presentation. This was really great in the sense that all my questions were all answered by your presentation, specifically with regard to the furniture, the software maintenance agreements, the interpreters, professional services, all of it. So thank you very much. I just had a quick question with regard to, you said you received $113,000 from AOIC, and it varies every year. So the amount of money that you said, that had been increased due to, various reasons, do you think some of that will be covered by the $113,000, or is that going forward, you don't know how much money you'll be getting from the state?
I don't know how much money I'll be getting from the state. We've only gotten it 1 year. Last year was the first year, and they used some kind of math equation based on population and poverty rates and crime statistics. And so I have no idea where we're going to fall on that. So I just ballparked 100,000. Instead of us being surprised in September or whenever it was last year, so I had to make a modification to the budget that you approved right before you approved the budget. Finance recommended that I just plan for it, both on the expenditure side and the revenue side. Okay. So that's what I did.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Member Krajewski.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the presentation, Jeff. I know Sunday night I sent an email to you and Jason, everybody, that there was an issue with the state's attorney's budget. We got that revised, and I had several questions regarding the expenses on the public defender. Remember you said, well, Jason told me wait to the presentation, but you answered every single one of the questions I had in your presentation, and so thank you. I have no questions, but I would suggest all the other elected officials, department heads, to watch Jeff's presentation, what he did, because if we get that information either at the presentation or in advance, explaining any of the differences when what you've actually been spending, and then it's such a big increase, you gave us, even on some of the smaller items, the reason behind it, and it all made sense, and it makes it a lot easier than just giving us a budget that shows that. So outstanding job, and Jason was right, just wait for the presentation, because every one of my questions I had, several of them were all answered during the presentation. that's the kind of presentation I'd like to see from elected officials or department heads, either in advance with your slides or at the presentation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful presentation. Thank you. Okay. Any old business? Any new business? Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Okay. We are adjourned.